like my topic is a little more theoretical, choosing an ideal lubricant. We all know that tear supplements or lubricants are the mainstay of therapy for dry eye disease, despite all the innovations in the understanding of the pathophysiology and insight into the diagnosis and documenting the dry eye. The artificial tears provide an immediate, most affordable, and least invasive form of treatment. So it remains still the mainstay, despite all the other agents. So here, because I'm going to focus on lubricants, the talk is more focused on that area only. But the facts are there is a dearth of randomized controlled trials that compare the efficacy of commercially available artificial tears. The FDA has approved the FDA approval process for artificial tears does not require individual study submissions, and much of the available research is industry funded, which can further complicate drawing clinically applicable evidence. One of the recent meta-analysis reviewed quite a significant, did a head-to-head artificial tear trial, and they came to a conclusion that it is unclear whether some artificial tears are better than others at relieving patients' symptoms, though they did relieve the symptoms in patients who used artificial tears. So the question here is, do we have an ideal tear substitute available, despite so many things available into the market? Ideally, one should have a preservative-free, that means less epitheliotoxic drug available. It should be soothing to the ocular surface, should have good retention time on the surface, but should not at the same time blur the vision, should have all the elements a natural tear can provide. Do we have one? Not yet. So let's look at the properties like, the artificial tears mainly are lubricants. The active ingredient is polymeric base or viscosity agent. And the tear supplements should be preservative free, should have the electrolytes as mentioned here. And the key elements would be preservatives, electrolyte composition, osmolarity, and viscosity agents. The primary active ingredients found in most of the artificial tears are either ophthalmic demulcents or emollients. These demulcents are substances that soothe the mucous membranes, and in case of artificial tears, they provide lubrication in the form of mucoprotective film, and they can alleviate discomfort, aid in water retention, and decrease friction across the ocular surface. So based on that, FDA has approved demulcents for artificial tears. This chart depicts the active ingredients in various formulations, the concentration of it which is available, and the functions which it provides to the ocular surface. If you look at the types of ingredients which are present in artificial tears, there could be viscosity enhancing agents like CMC, HA, combination of CMC plus hyaluronic acid, or HP guar, or combination of HP guar and hyaluronic acid and HPMC. There could be osmotic agents, osmoprotectants like L-carnitine and betanin and trehalose. The lipid supplements which are not available currently in India, the preservatives like they could have bark or other preservatives which are, transiently present or disappearing preservatives. There could be inactive components and antioxidants. Based on this table, we would understand that the preservatives would have this kind of a role, as the previous speakers in the glaucoma session were worried about the presence of benzalkonium chloride or BAC on the surface as the patient is on long-term anti-glaucoma medications. So we would be worried about the patients who would be having preservatives into their even tear supplements, and they are on multi-drug therapy due to other reasons. The electrolyte composition should be also balanced. The osmolarity, again, as was mentioned in Dr. Ahuja's talk, that, we should be having tears which would decrease the osmolarity to break the vicious circle, and the viscosity agents which are available to us. So it is ideal to use drops which are preservative free for everybody, which are available in unit dose, but cost is an issue. So probably we can use transiently preserved artificial tears where the preservative disappears on contact with the air, like SOC or perborate, or one can have Novelia bottle technology or dispensers which can have totally non-preserved tears, or in conditions where artificial tears are used for a short period of time and in lesser frequency, maybe we can use any combination, like, we can use PEG, or any kind of, lubricant can be used if it is being used for a very short period of time, like maybe for computer vision syndrome or for post cataract surgery for a very short while, or maybe for a post LASIK surgery also for a very short while, or in cases where grade 1 dry eye is there, or in step 1 management. Let's look at the role of active ingredients. Interestingly, as per news, they've mentioned almost all the compounds which are available in the Indian markets, like CMC, it means sodium hyaluronate, PEG and PG, HP-GOR, HPMC, Trehalose, but there is no mention that any of these is superior to the others. None of the studies have proven that. Let's look at the mechanism of action of each of them quickly, and then maybe we will come back to the our main question. Why PEG-PG with HP-GOR? This, once it comes in contact with the ocular surface, its viscosity increases, and the solution turns into a protective film, which provides immediate relief and long-term improvement of symptoms. So, which can be used for grade 1 dry eye, or even for patients who have evaporative dry eye to begin with, or any transient, short-term management of dry eye. In aqueous deficient dry eye, the preference would be CMC lubricants as a first choice, because they are superior. They provide superior symptomatic relief. They have superior mucoadhesive force. They have superior regeneration. They cause superior regeneration of the goblet cells and recovery of the ocular surface health. It is available in 0.5 and 1% concentration. 1% sometimes causes blurring and sometimes cracking at the lid margins. And in studies which have done, CMC has the highest mucoadhesive force to hydrate the cells. So maybe for moderate to severe dry eye, maybe CMC should be a first choice. Or if given in a given situation, if you have no other problems, one can even use it in grade 1 dry eye. In addition to CMC, one can add osmoprotectants like, tear hyperosmolarity is the central mechanism in the pathogenesis of ocular surface damage, and it is associated with inflammation in the dry eye. So more recent attempts to counteract tear hyperosmolarity in dry eye disease have included these osmoprotectants into the management part. The osmoprotectants protect cells under extreme osmotic stress by balancing the osmotic pressure without disturbing the cell metabolism. They restore cell volume and stabilize protein function, allowing adaptation of hyperosmolarity. As you can see here, sodium hyaluronate would be a good alternative. It creates a water bridge is formed between the amine and carboxyl groups, which is present in hyaluronate and the water molecule. So essentially, it has two basic properties: biophysical properties and biochemical properties. The biophysical properties would help in higher water retention, right viscosity, provide shear dependent viscosity. It also provides that mucoadhesive and mucomimetic properties, while biochemical properties would allow it to have ocular surface restoration through CD4 for binding and free radical scavenging. So sodium hyaluronate acts as both the drug as well as a medical device in management of dry eye disease. It has a long-lasting retention and mucoadhesive property. It creates a thick coating and which prevents water evaporation. So it can also be used in evaporative dry eye as well as aqueous deficiency dry eye. HA also shows significantly greater increase in non-invasive breakup time compared to HPMC. This can be combined with CMC and sometimes with Trehalose also. Trehalose not only protects the cells from desiccation, but also preserves the cell membrane and membrane proteins from deactivation or denaturing during desiccation, thus protecting cells from death by desiccation. This is a new kid on the block. It prevents corneal epithelial cells and death from desiccation. So only I think the last slide and maybe a concluding slide. Hence, Trehalose and HA substitute significantly decreases ocular discomfort symptoms, surface damage, and tear cytokine levels along with goblet cell density recovery. These results may be associated with the synergic action of both Trehalose and HA in targeting different entries of the dry eye disease vicious circle. And the last but not the least, the rebamipide, which also is a good option for managing the dry eye, having, mucin deficiency. So the take-home message would be determine which cure film layer is primarily involved. For evaporative dry eye, lubricants containing PG or PG with HP-GOR are effective. Can also try HA containing drops. For aqueous deficient dry eye, drops with CMC with osmoprotectants may be preferred. In both these conditions, Trielos can also be effective, though I do not have very personal experience of using Trielos for a long term. In ocular surface issues or where there is mucin deficiency, ribamipide is a useful adjunct. With this, I would just like to thank everyone for the attention.